Diego here. Want to invite you to go check out Poblis. Poblis is a dog clothing and accessory company based in Austria. 10% of each of your purchases goes to helping dogs in need, whether it's homeless, sick, or ill dogs. This is one of the reasons why we support it. Kiska here is a rescue dog from rural Alaska and our grid office dog. We care about our furry buddies, and we know you do as well. Definitely check out Poblis.com. There's a link on the video description, and by clicking on that link, you get a 10% discount on your purchase as well. Hello and welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race. Very exciting show, and definitely welcome to all our Ultimate Sports Radio Network. We want to recognize today is Juneteenth, newest federal holiday, but I know for many families this has been a very significant day for a long time, and it's very good to see that the United States recognizing it as an official federal holiday. We have 7 races this weekend, 8. Counting the SRX, of course, and out of the grid ranking, the 7 Series, 6 of them are runs. So a lot going on. We're going to start with Kobe from the podium finish and Formula One racing.
It's round 7 of the season, and the battle between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen is on. Hamilton leads and wins, but Verstappen is the points leader right now by 4. Neither driver scored points last time around after a chaotic Baku Azerbaijan Grand Prix. But Red Bull ended up on top with Sergio Perez. That was definitely an exciting win for Checo. Now that Red Bull has both drivers with wins this season, is there pressure on Valtteri Bottas to perform, especially with the recent silly season rumors? I know in the media, especially with Autosport and Motorsport.com, they were saying that Mercedes might not make a decision between George Russell and Valtteri Bottas until late in the winter.
Yeah, that latest report that it might be late in the winter when there's a decision made. That allows Bottas the time and opportunity to show he can get it done on the track. And today, he looked a lot better on the track. He seemed a lot more confident running fast speeds. What we saw in qualifying today, I think, is a good indication that Mercedes, don't count them out. Don't count out Bottas. The big thing for them is having that good start and a good race. Bottas, it seems his biggest strength, if he could be up front in the start of the race, he'll stay up front. We saw that at Monaco. He could contend for the win. The problem is, it seems he struggles more when he's in the midfield. We know the Mercedes doesn't do good trying to get through the field with dirty air. If Bottas could avoid that, he'll be in good shape. But that's the key. The start will be the determining factor for Bottas this weekend.
Yes, and if Mercedes decides to delay their 2022 driver lineup announcement till later on after the season, I think that would be really great for Valtteri Bottas, because that'll give him plenty of time to go out there, perform, and show Mercedes that I deserve to be here for another year. And it's something to note this weekend that's different. Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton actually swapped chassis, so Valtteri Bottas is driving the car that Lewis Hamilton's been driving, and Hamilton's been driving the car that Bottas has had. I guess we'll see if there's a difference in equipment. I know over time there's always been talking in Formula One where the number 1 driver will get the best equipment, and then the second driver, they'll just get the I guess I'll say the meh equipment. And it's going to be interesting to see how Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas performs in each other's chassis this weekend. And this weekend, everyone is talking about the Pirelli tires and what happened last round at Baku, Azerbaijan. Pirelli said that Aston Martin Racing and Red Bull had lower air pressures in the tires, but within the rules. But Red Bull denied it and claimed that they followed all of the specifications set by Pirelli. And it's funny that we're talking about this, because this is a similar situation we see in NASCAR and Goodyear tires when there's like some tire blowouts in NASCAR, and the teams say that it's Goodyear's fault. Goodyear will always say that it's their air pressures and basically pin it on the teams for whatever tire failure happens. So there's no difference here between Red Bull, Aston Martin, and Pirelli. And in response to the situation, the FIA isn't introducing more measures to monitor tires to prevent manipulation. Joe, do you believe this could change the outcome significantly for Mercedes or Red Bull?
For Mercedes and Red Bull, I don't think this will change the outcome significantly. However, I was a bit surprised when we saw Charles Leclerc complaining about he was not able to get those front tires up to grip as fast as he wanted to. That's where I started thinking, well, could that be because of the new monitoring of the tire pressure? It's very interesting, and that's a good comparison with NASCAR Goodyear. Here, there's a lot of ways that teams can manipulate their tire pressures when they go on the track, whether it's removing the tire blankets much earlier so that way as the temperature drops, it meets that minimum requirement, but then as it keeps dropping, it gets to a lower level that they have set. The big thing, of course, is they want to get lower pressure, more grip. I do see this could be a big factor when it comes to Aston Martin or any midfield teams that are much more aggressive. I don't believe Red Bull and Mercedes were too aggressive with this. I do believe what happened in Baku could have been a case where Red Bull just pushed a little too much with the air pressures and it bit Max Verstappen in the back.
And as we see right there, looking at the starting lineup, Red Bull and Mercedes took the first 4 starting spots. Verstappen on the pole, Hamilton, Bottas behind him, and Checo's in fourth. Lewis Hamilton said after qualifying that there's a chance of rain, and it's certainly a possibility looking at this weekend's forecast. And with Paul Ricard at Le Castellet typically not putting on the most exciting races in Formula One, I'm sure having some rain during the race would definitely spice things up and add to this event. Why do you think Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes are hoping for rain this weekend?
Lewis Hamilton knows he's really good in the rain, and I see him having the advantage on everybody else. With that said, though, Max Verstappen, we know, is very good in the rain. The big thing is when it comes to the cars, Lewis Hamilton believes his car, with the handle at a slower pace in the rain, could do a lot better compared to Red Bull in the rain. We've seen Max Verstappen have done some great drives in that Red Bull in the past years, so I wouldn't call it a slam dunk easy win if it rains. And we definitely want to hear from everyone in the chat for what they think. If it rains, will Lewis Hamilton or Max Verstappen have the upper hand? So again, this is all coming down to the mind game between the two. We saw that Lewis Hamilton talking about the tires while Max Verstappen was there. Max Verstappen going about how Mercedes is not 100%. A lot going on. I think it's going to be a very exciting weekend for Formula One overall.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting watching the mind games between Mercedes and Red Bull. And Max and Lewis have been playing a lot of mind games this season. And for everyone who's been following Formula One, you know that mind games in general is really what Formula One is all about. You definitely want to get in your rival's head, take them out of the game, and then when you take them out of their game, then you're able to elevate yours. And I think we're going to be seeing a back and forth mind games between Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Mercedes, and Red Bull throughout the remainder of the season. And you can catch the French Grand Prix tomorrow, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern. And if you're in the United States, you can catch that on ESPN with the Sky Sports Formula One broadcast. And later today and tomorrow, we have Formula E in Mexico, but not at the racetrack home of the Mexican Grand Prix, but at Puebla instead.
Puebla, great racetrack out there. Has an oval layout, and it's going to be really interesting. You're going to have that final corner, banked oval corner, high speeds entering that main straight. I think it's going to set up for a really unique Formula E race, and it's a very unique season for Formula E. It's not often the points leader of Formula E has 0 wins in the current season. Well, that's the case this year. Robin French leads the Mercedes and Jaguar drivers 0 wins, but he has that consistency. He leads Nick de Vries by 5 points in the ABB Formula E World Championship. Do you believe Robin French needs to step up to stay ahead, or can the consistency pay off in Formula E?
Well, Joe, you know better than anyone that Formula E, they have a great amount of parity. And I think if you can be consistent like he's been, I think you can definitely win the championship without winning a race. But I definitely think Robin French certainly wants to go out there and get a win soon. You see right there, looking at the point standings, only a few points ahead of Nick DeFries, and then you got Mitch Evans and Antonio Felix Acosta, the defending champion, and Sam Burt ran out the top 5. It's definitely been a crazy Formula E season. All of those drivers I just mentioned, they've been all over the place this season in terms of finishing result. So I think if Robin Burns just keeps doing what he's doing, I think he'll certainly be all right. And I also wanted to point out, I think it's really cool that Formula E is basically running what we call in the United States a roval this weekend in Puebla.
Great terminology, the roval. That's a great summary of this racetrack at Puebla. And of course, the last race we saw for Formula E was the Monaco E-Prix, and Antonio Felix da Costa getting to win in a very fascinating race. A lot of people thought it would be a procession like what we see in Formula One in Monaco. That was a very exciting race. So a lot of expectations for today's race and tomorrow's race to be just as exciting. And of course, big excitement for Antonio Felix da Costa fans. Currently fourth in the points, rebounding after a slow start to the season, trying to mount that championship challenge. Big rumor is he might be going to IndyCar later this year. Of course, he is a defending champion. It's the last time a champion from Formula E is not considered a world champion. That'll be this year. If Antonio Felix Acosta switches to IndyCar, how big of a void will this create in Formula E?
Oh, it'll be quite a void because he is the defending champion and he's one of the most competitive drivers in the championship. Da Costa is certainly one of the biggest names in Formula E, and it would definitely be a big loss for the series to lose him to another series. And coming out of the IndyCar doubleheader weekend last weekend on the streets of Detroit and Belle Isle, it was announced that Rahal Letterman Lanigan is looking to run that third entry to number 45 Honda at select rounds for the rest of the year. We already know they're running 2 full-time entries right now with Graham Rahal in the number 15 and Takuma Sato in the number 30. And then the number 45, they ran with Santino Ferrucci in the Indy 500. And then Ferrucci also ran the doubleheader weekend at Detroit. But Rahal Letterman Lanigan is looking to run that number 45 car at select rounds for the remainder of the season. We might see Santino Ferrucci again, but I also want to evaluate other drivers because it's not a well-known secret that Rahal Letterman Lanigan, they're planning to expand to a 3 full-time cars in the future. And Antonio Felix Acosta during the preseason, he tested that other Rahal entry at Barber Motorsports Park, and he was actually really competitive. I believe he was 12th fastest in that session, which is really incredible for a driver in their first day driving an IndyCar. And it would not surprise me if we did see Da Costa race in IndyCar later this year, because the Formula E season is going to be wrapping up in a couple of months, and then we're going to have several IndyCar races left, especially that West Coast swing towards the end of the season. So if they have the sponsorship and he's okay from DS Chichita, I think we could certainly see Antonio Felix da Costa make his debut this year with Rahal. And I also found some quotes from him in the media from the past talking about IndyCar. He's also said that he's willing to try out the oval tracks as well. So maybe we could see Antonio Felix da Costa racing full time in the NTT IndyCar series down the road.
The addition of Antonio Felix da Costa will be another boost in IndyCars as they're getting more and more international drivers from F1, Formula E, interested, involved. And Antonio Felix da Costa, being from Portugal, I think he'll bring a lot of Portuguese fans to watch him race, and just adds on to essentially IndyCar's game. And of course, with Antonio Felix da Costa, if he was to leave, we know we're losing BMW, Audi, more questions of what Formula E is going to do in the future to try to keep their stars and their positive momentum as they've been growing. One of the stars that seems to be staying for quite some time is Mitch Evans. Of course, so close to getting that win at Monaco, losing out to Antonio Felix da Costa. Essentially, a last lap pass. Big thing, of course, for him, the consistency is just not, well, it is there compared to the other racers, but not on the same level as Robert French. His team has won a race. For Mitch Evans, it's been a while since he won a race. However, with his consistency, do you believe in Jaguar's case, is Mitch Evans at the point where he could be the team's priority for the championship, or are we still equal between Mitch Evans and his teammate Sam Bird?
Well, Joe, you had the point standing up. You can see Sam Bird is not that far behind, so I don't necessarily think you can put Mitch Evans as the top priority right now because he only a few points separate them, and I think And I think Jaguar, they still need to focus on both drivers and make sure they're doing their best to try to make a run for the championship. As I mentioned, there's a lot of parity in Formula E, and after a doubleheader weekend in Puebla, Mexico, I definitely think the championship standings could shake up and they could find themselves both in better position. I also need to watch out for the constructors teams championship as well.
The Constructor Team Championship, that's a big one. They need both drivers to do well. And I believe right now, Jaguar, there's no priority between Mitch Evans and Sam Bird when it comes to the championship. That will change if we see Sam Bird get a win number 2, and prove his consistency. Sam Bird, it just seems, especially being in Group 1 qualifying, he just always seems to be marred in the back compared to Mitch Evans. He seems to be able to get a little further up ahead and get that better finishing result. Wins will make the difference in that team. And of course, a double header. So there's 2 opportunities for a win. At Mexico, today and tomorrow, qualifying will take place at the top of the hour, race at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 Pacific on both Saturday and Sunday. And today, we have 2 IndyCar practices and qualifying, and then, of course, the race on Sunday.
And speaking of IndyCar, it's a series that has the closest points lead out of the 7 series in the grid ranking. And Pato O'Ward is leading the championship coming out of the Detroit doubleheader weekend by 1 point over Alex Palou. And now entering Road America, it's a demanding 4-mile, 14-turn track that expects the best out of all the drivers. Scott Dixon is currently the only active driver this weekend to have more than 1 win at Road America. Is Road America the perfect track to allow everyone to show where they stack up at this stage in the championship?
It is. It's like the timing just came really perfect. Just like how Baku was the perfect opportunity for Formula One to see where the championship will go. Essentially, it stayed close. Here, the championship, it could stay close. We could see some of the younger drivers have issues, that lack of experience, where the veteran drivers use that experience and advance themselves. We could also have a crazy race. We've seen where in Road America, if you have weather there, next thing you know, you're going to have safety cars mix up results. Of course, one full course caution during green flag pit stops, that could change the outcome of the race. There's a lot that could affect the outcome, but the biggest thing, Road America, you can make the passes. There's some great passing opportunities. You're not confined like in a traditional street course. And I think for Scott Dixon, this is a great opportunity for him. For Pato O'Ward, this is a big test for him and the McLaren team and Alex Palou to show that they could handle, especially a track like Road America.
Yes, it's going to be fun watching that championship battle between Pato O'Ward and Alex Palou this weekend, because looking at the race last year, both of those drivers were extremely strong. Palou had a really, I know last year because of the pandemic, we had a doubleheader weekend at Road America. Alex Palou was really strong. Pato O'Ward was leading really late in one of those races, and he got in that really exciting battle with Felix Rosenqvist, who's unfortunately not at Road America this week and wasn't cleared after that really scary accident into the Turn 6 tire barriers on the streets of Detroit. And I think this is certainly a track where these drivers can really show their stuff, and I really think it'll be wide open. You mentioned Road America has a lot of great passing zones. The track has a European style feel. It's really old school, and it's certainly a fan favorite and a favorite of the drivers as well. And Team Penske, really surprising at this point in the season. We have to say no wins this season between its 4 drivers. No wins for Joseph Newgarden, Will Power, Simon Pagenaud, or rookie Scott McLaughlin. And I don't really think a lot of people could expect Scott McLaughlin to win this year, considered he's coming from supercars and driving those heavy Australian supercars, transition to those single seaters and open wheel racing. Certainly a hard transition, but Scott certainly, he's had some great results this season, although lately it seems like he's in quite of a slump, definitely showing that no matter how talented he is, he's still a rookie in the NTT IndyCar Series. And the last win at Road America for Team Penske was Joseph Newgarden in 2018. Do you think this is finally the weekend where Penske will break the winless streak?
I'm not 100% sure. I would say yes, but I feel like it just seems so, the way IndyCar is so competitive, anybody could really go out there and win. Penske put on a good race, one of the cars can win. But that's what would happen in Detroit. Not once, but twice. Will Power could have easily had that race win, should have probably had that race win if it wasn't for the red flag and his car not starting up. Joseph Newgarden, tires wore out, but his strategy was messed up. Essentially, what that early caution early on in the race in lap one. He needed a long green flag stint. Right away, lap one, that just made it where his strategy was compromised, and at the end, those tires gave out for a war to go around him. Penske's going to need to have a picture-perfect race weekend to get the win here at Road America. There's a lot of factors that could easily mess it up, but I do think they have the potential. It's just executing everything perfect.
Yeah, Penske will definitely have to be perfect, as they always say. Penske perfect. Can Team Penske break that winless streak this weekend? I think it's certainly possible, but I don't really see it happening this weekend. And probably because I said that, Team Penske is probably going to win this weekend. I always enjoy coming back later, watching our Grid Life pre-race programs to see how absolutely wrong I was with my predictions. So it will not be a surprise if I'm wrong here as well. And when we're talking about winless streaks, one driver that ended his personal winless streak for the first time since 2013 was Kevin Magnussen, the ex-Haas Formula One driver. Last weekend, when he won his very first IMSA race on the streets of Detroit, Chip Ganassi Racing, Cadillac, and co-driver Ringer Van der Zand, it was definitely an exciting time for Kevin Magnussen. If you saw the pictures from Victory Lane last weekend around the fountain, Magnussen was all smiles. It was his first time winning a race in like 8 years, so it's easy to imagine why he was so excited. And this weekend, real big surprise, he'll be making his NTT IndyCar Series debut at Road America, driving for Aaron McLaren SP, driving for the injured Felix Rosenqvist, and another driver filling in for injured driver Renus VK. We talked about it on Grid tonight. Broke his clavicle in a cycling accident. Not fit to race this weekend. Oliver Askew filling in at Carpenter Racing, and Askew filled in for Felix Rosenqvist at race 2 in Detroit. And Oliver Askew went to the top of the charts this morning in practice. So Oliver's definitely showing that he's certainly capable of being a full-time IndyCar driver after losing his seat last year at McLaren. What are the reasonable expectations for each driver this weekend?
For Askew, coming home with the car in one piece, that will be huge. Seeing what he did at practice speeds, I believe that's going to be a benefit for him. Not so much as, oh, now there's more pressure on you, but that builds his confidence up. I think he feels determined, like, okay, I got the speed. It's just a matter of doing everything I can, hitting my marks, putting in good laps, and having a winning strategy. That team is very capable of doing that. In fact, they won the last natural road course at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Natural road course, as in, is a FIA Grade A road course. We know it's part of a roval similar to Indianapolis Motor Speedway and other racetracks that have road course within. But they could win there. So I say top 10 finish for them has to be a good goal. For essentially Magnussen, being with McLaren, I think the pressure is a little bit higher. That McLaren team, overall, they're pretty fast. Felix Rosenqvist, we know, have had a lot of bad luck. Going into this race, a lot of people are going to see Kevin Magnussen as an audition for this race. You could say that, but I see this is not really an audition, but just more he is making the substitute fill-in. I don't see Kevin Magnussen being an option if SPM, McLaren Racing expand. Most likely Chip Ganassi option. So I think he's more going out there, learn the car, learn the track, put together a top 10 finish. But whatever outcome, as long as he brings the car home in one piece, mission accomplished.
And looking at the practice speeds this morning, Oliver Askew was fifth fastest in a number 21 Chevrolet. However, towards the bottom of the charts, Kevin Magnussen, P20 out of 25 cars. And I think looking at some reasonable expectations, starting back at Detroit race 2, Oliver Askew, he was thrown in a really difficult situation. As we know, last year caused a pandemic. We did not race at Belle Isle, and last year was Oliver Askew's rookie season. So Oliver's had never been on the Belle Isle circuit at all, heading into his surprise fill-in because Rosenqvist wasn't cleared to race. So all Oliver Askew had in terms of track time was that short practice session in the morning, a few hours before the race, and that's all the track time Oliver had. Then he just had to line it up and race. And yes, Oliver wasn't exactly on the pace in the same number 7 he drove last year, but that's to be expected because Oliver, I believe he had like a 1-day test session earlier in the year at Sebring International Raceway driving for Andretti Autosport. And then he's also been in some LMP3 cars in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. So Oliver hasn't been consistently in the car. And we just one day in the IndyCar prior to last Sunday's race 2 at Detroit. So it's easy to understand why Oliver Askew might have had some struggles at Detroit and unfortunately end up retiring from the race. So I definitely think we have to give Oliver Askew a lot of credit for what he did last weekend at Detroit, considering the circumstances. But this weekend, as we're seeing, he's a lot more competitive because he's having the same amount of track time as the other driver. Is going to get a full weekend with the team to show what he can really do. I expect Oliver Askew to be way more competitive this weekend than he was last weekend. As for Kevin Magnussen, as you can see, practice 1 yesterday and practice 2 this morning, towards the bottom of the charts. And to be honest, that's not really a surprise at all, considering this is Kevin Magnussen's very first time in an IndyCar. He didn't have the luxury of testing the IndyCar earlier this season. This is his first opportunity to drive these type of cars. I think as Magnussen gets more time in the cars, he'll definitely get faster. I think a reasonable expectation for for starting with Oliver Askew. I think he could certainly finish in the top 10 given his speed. And for Kevin Magnussen, I think just running all the laps, finishing in the top 20 would be good. I think if he continues to get faster, move up the grid, I certainly think he could be challenging for a top 15 position. I think that would be a huge win for them. As I said on Grid Tonight, we all know Kevin Magnussen wants to be in IndyCar. He's certainly enjoying his time in IMSA right now. He'll be going to Peugeot later on for the hypercar program, but it certainly seems like he wants to be in IndyCar because it's a series where the driver can make more of a difference than the car. And he's also talked to his old Formula One teammate Roman Grosjean, who's having a really great run in IndyCar, really enjoying being more competitive, fighting for poles and win something he hasn't been able to do for a long time. And I think that's why drivers like Roman Grosjean, Kevin Magnussen, Antonio Felix da Costa, and others out there really want to be in this series racing, competing for those poles and race wins, and maybe eventually for championships. And after this weekend, we'll be entering the second half of the 2021 NTT IndyCar Series season. Road America is race 9 out of 16 in 2021 scheduled so far. Which driver, in your opinion, is in a must-win situation entering this weekend?
Has to be Alexander Rossi. Has to be Ryan Hunter-Reay. Those two, especially on Ready Autosports, they just seem to be missing it all season long. They're in a must-win situation, especially if the points leaders go out there and get the win. I don't see how they could contend for a championship unless they just have a stellar second half of their year where you just win, win, win. Those are the drivers I see that are in a must-win situation. Getting to that must-win situation, I would say Simon Pagenaud. He's a bit more consistent than them. But especially what we're seeing, Award 2 wins. Dixon, he's finishing up there. Alex Palou is really always up towards the front. He needs to start getting some more wins to get up there. And Will Power, absolute must win. Just horrendous luck this season with what happened in Detroit in that first race. The stress of barely making it in the Indianapolis 500. He needs that win to turn his season around. Maybe the championship will be a good goal, but the big thing is let's just turn our season around. Let's go out there and get a win when it comes to the drivers I see in a must-win situation.
And the drivers in a must-win situation. I think looking at the point standings right now, we have Pato O'Ward first, Alex Palou second, 1 point separate. Then you have Scott Dixon in third, and then Joseph Newgarden in down. I think those are all of the drivers who are going to be in a must-win situation to make sure this championship isn't slipping away. Right now, I think it's a 3-horse race for the championship between O'Ward, Palou, and Dixon. Right now, it's Palou and O'Ward at the top of the standings. Scott Dixon, he's a little further behind, but definitely the championship is still within reach for Dixon to pick up another trophy. And overall, from a team's perspective, I think it's certainly a must-win situation for Team Penske, especially since we've gotten this far in the season. They haven't found victory lane yet. I'm sure Team Penske wins this weekend. There will certainly be a lot of excitement for Roger Penske, Tim Cedric, and the entire operation. And if we're looking at what happened last weekend in Detroit, honestly, Team Penske should have swept that weekend. Detroit was a huge missed opportunity. As we know, Roger Penske's been the promoter of the racing in Detroit at Belle Isle Park, and to watch his cars dominate that weekend and come away empty-handed is really frustrating. I believe when I wrote my article for the podium finish, I calculated the number of laps led between Joseph Newgarden and Will Power. Will Power dominated race one until IndyCar threw that red flag. Went to pit road. Power tried to fire up the car, would not fire. Then Power fell toward the really back of the field. Joseph Newgarden, we thought he was going to win, but he was on those Firestone Reds at the end, and Award was on the blacks on the better tire compound. Newgarden's tires were absolutely shot. Award went around him, stole the race. Between Will Power and Joseph Newgarden last weekend at Belle Isle, Team Penske led 74% of the race laps, and to lead that amount of laps, race one, race two, and not come away with the win, that's definitely a huge disappointment for Team Penske, and they'll look to put that double disaster at Detroit behind them and try to win this weekend at Road America, and the race is ahead. And after Road America, we have Mid-Ohio, and then the very first Nashville Street Course. And Nashville is the site of the NASCAR Cup Series this weekend. And Nashville is one of the fastest growing cities in America, home of Nissan. And both IndyCar and NASCAR are visiting the Music City this year.
Both of them are visiting the Music City this year. Just the fact that that city is growing, strong economy, both of them trying to establish fan bases there. Very smart move. And NASCAR definitely trying to take that first step with racing this weekend at Nashville Superspeedway. The Ally 400 is the first time NASCAR has had any of the three series visit Nashville Superspeedway since 2011. Of course, this is the first time for the Cup Series to race at Nashville Superspeedway. Kobe, how important is it for NASCAR to have a successful weekend at Nashville Superspeedway, especially since IndyCar is coming a few weeks later?
Oh, yes, it's really important for NASCAR to have a lot of success this weekend in Nashville. For so many years, people have always been asking, when is NASCAR going to come back to Nashville? People really enjoy the Music City, the home of country music, especially with everything going on all throughout the city. It's not just racing; it's also the sights and sounds as well that you can see in Nashville. I know a lot of people really wanted to see NASCAR go to the short track Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. That is still to be determined, but for now we have to settle with Nashville Superspeedway. And watching the Truck Series race last night, really exciting, a lot of action, and that's definitely a good sign for the rest of the weekend. And one situation I want people to be aware of, and I hope people aren't having deja vu back to the very first NASCAR Cup Series race at Kentucky. This weekend in Nashville so far, there's been a traffic problem, and people are really concerned that it might turn into a Kentucky 2.0, quote unquote, and others who tried to arrive to the track last night for the truck race said traffic was really bad, and those trying to get into the track for Xfinity today, they also said traffic was not good. But Nashville Superspeedway is aware of the situation, and they're hoping to come up with a plan to make sure that traffic is not a major issue for the race fans, and that's certainly a situation we'll be following here at Grid Network.
Definitely a situation worth following. Great points, especially when a track is hosting something first time. And I think that also points out to one of the big things that's going to be very different when IndyCar and NASCAR both holding events in Nashville. NASCAR, Nashville Super Series, just located outside the city limits, so you got traffic to deal with. The IndyCar race is going to be right there in downtown Nashville. Both of them, on the surface, motorsports, auto racing event, where their products are super different. NASCAR wants to make a really good image on their fans that this is what NASCAR is. This is why it's a lot of fun. This is why we want to keep having you come back. IndyCar, very different product. The big thing they got, they're right there in downtown Nashville, much more accessible, less dependent on traffic getting to the track. One driver expected to have a successful weekend here in Nashville, Kyle Larson, going for not just 3 wins in a row, 3 entire race sweeps in a row. That is just amazing. He has swept the last 2 races at the Coca-Cola 600 in Sonoma, which means he's won every stage. And then, of course, the All-Star race, he got that win. And the grid ranking, he has really climbed up. He is now easily in the top 10, right there in 4th place, the highest ranked NASCAR driver so far this season. When it comes to Kyle Larson, is he at that point where he's about to break through and start dominating the rest of the NASCAR Cup season? Or is it just too competitive, the NASCAR Cup Series, to see anyone dominate?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't really see anyone who can challenge Kyle Larson and Hendrick Motorsports right now. So we might see the streak continue where Larson will go on a streak and start dominating. And if it's not Larson, it might be his Hendrick Motorsports teammates, Chase Elliott, William Byron. And then this is the Ally 400 this weekend. So I'm sure Alex Bowman would really love to get Ally in victory lane this weekend, especially since they're sponsoring the race. But as we know in NASCAR, we've seen teams peak way too early sometimes. And then when it matters, they fall apart and someone else will rise to the occasion. And will Kyle Larson and Hendrick Motorsports are they peaking too early? It's way too soon to say right now. But as I've said before on previous shows, I've been consistent with this. Hendrick Motorsports, Kyle Larson in a completely different town right now, and everybody else is really struggling to catch up. But with the championship format, Kyle Larson could go out there and dominate the rest of the season. But Phoenix have a mechanical failure and lose the championship. So certainly it's not game over for anyone else right now.
When it comes to Kyle Larson, I see him potentially starting to get the wins, win after win after win. Something similar to what we saw Harvick and Denny Hamlin each do last year. The big thing, of course, that playoffs, they have to keep that same momentum, that same streak. They cannot afford what happened like to Kevin Harvick and just drop a dud in the playoffs. Kyle Larson and that team, a lot of people are comparing him to Jeff Gordon in the 90s. Still think they're a little ways there. The big thing is qualifying, which is going to happen tomorrow. We saw Kyle Larson get the pole for the Coca-Cola Center. I will not be surprised if he is on the pole. And of course, I anticipate all Hendrick Motorsports being up front. And as you mentioned, Alex Bowman, of course, he made news. He's staying in that 48 Ally team through 2024. Some other big news, of course, Kaulig Racing full-time next year in the Cup Series. You're going to have two vehicles, one to Justin Haley full-time and then AJ Allmendinger part-time in the other vehicle, both of them with charters. Still, Trackhouse Racing, who's in the Cup Series currently, no charter. Plus, GMS Racing is going to the Cup Series. No full details released just yet. Is this a product of the new next-gen car and what teams could do? And the teams without a charter right now, are they in trouble?
Well, looking at the next gen car and looking at the long term picture, it really seems like long term that with costs going down is gonna make it a lot easier for teams to start up a NASCAR Cup Series program. In the short term, it's gonna be really expensive for these teams to switch over from the Gen 6 to the next gen, and that's not gonna be any fun at all. But when we're looking at the big picture overall, the next gen car is definitely gonna be bringing more teams to the Cup Series. However, looking at the charters, it's really a game of musical chairs trying to find out which charter is going where with the 36 teams and 36 charters that get some. And I know there's been a lot of criticism out there about the charter system because many feel like it stunts growth in the Cup Series and prevents a lot of teams from getting a piece of the pie, because the top 36 teams, they get a lot more money in comparison to the open teams. And having a charter, you're locked into every race. You're not going to miss a race. But when you're an open team, especially with qualifying expected to return next year, if you miss a race, that's a whole bunch of money gone down the drain. And it's not good when you're missing races like that. But overall, it's really good to see these new teams come into the Cup Series. We know Trackhouse 2311 Racing and trying to expand to a 2-car operation next year. But with Kaulig Racing getting those 2 charters from Spire Motorsports, also want to mention that Spire had 3 charters in its possession. That will definitely have one next year and continue to run full time with Corey LaJoie in that number 7 Chevrolet in 2022. And Kaulig Racing, GMS, more expansion to the Cup Series. And overall, the charter system, personally, I'm not really a fan of it, but it seems like it's here to stay for the future. And for 2311 Racing Trackhouse, they're gonna be scrambling really hard to get a charter. And right now, Trackhouse is actually leasing the a charter from Spire Motorsports, and that's who Kaulig bought it from. So Daniel Suarez, as of right now, he won't be locked into the field next year unless they find a charter. So I don't know about that 2-car operation for Trackhouse. Maybe if they do go 2 cars, find a charter for Suarez and run that second car as an open car. 2311, we know that they've been trying to find a charter for that second full-time seat alongside Bubba Wallace. So definitely there's going to be a lot of stressful months ahead for those race teams.
A lot of stressful months, and the big thing I feel The charter system, it's not perfect, but it is serving their purpose where it makes it where you want to invest in owning a NASCAR Cup Series team because at the end there is value in exiting the sport compared to in the past where we see teams like Bud Moore Racing, Junior Johnson sell their teams for pennies. So definitely, I think the next gen car got potential team owners excited. GMS, Colleague Racing, of course, both of them in the Xfinity Series, which is racing in Nashville tonight, 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Qualifying started about 4 minutes ago. It's 12:35 p.m. Eastern. Right now, we're showing at 12:39. So Xfinity Series, some good races, and we've had significant crashes in past races here in Nashville Superspeedway. When it comes to Nashville Superspeedway, what kind of race do you expect from the Cup Series, especially with the aero package and the stage?
If last night's Truck Series race was any indication of how the race is gonna go this weekend, I definitely think we could see some exciting action, especially on the restarts. Last night the Truck Series, they were like 4 and 5 wide on those restarts. Definitely a lot of room for racing heading into the weekend. A lot of people were concerned that this would just be a one groove racetrack and we wouldn't see much passing. But last night in the Truck Series race, saw a lot of overtaking, drivers making bold moves on the restarts. It was overall a really solid race last night for the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, and we haven't seen the Cup Series yet, but I do expect that we'll certainly see some exciting action this weekend, and overall NASCAR going to I guess what we call a quote unquote new track, although it's an old track on the schedule, is really exciting to see something new, especially when the NASCAR schedule has been really still for like the past decade or so.
NASCAR coming to Nashville Superspeedway, bringing the Cup Series. I think this is long overdue. We've seen how Nashville Superspeedway with the Xfinity Series had produced great races from 2011 and before. Of course, one of the big finishes everyone talks about was when the leaders, 4 of them, crashed and Michael Waltrip got the win under a yellow flag. A lot of potential. I think what's going to be a big issue is the dirty air with the aero package. However, considering the fact we're going to have qualifying, I think you're going to see the best of the best towards the front, those struggling in the back. I'm going to be looking at strategy being potentially a big factor in trying to mix it up. It's going to be a lot harder with the stages. Overall, I anticipate a race where we're going to see some lead changes here and there. But I think just like how a lot of us have been talking about, I think we're going to anticipate Kyle Larson and Hendrick Motorsports to the front. Of course, that race is tomorrow, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, the Ally 400 from Nashville Superspeedway, and return of NBC. The race will be on NBC Sports, and that is, of course, home of MotoGP.
And this weekend, MotoGP, we have the German Grand Prix, similar to Kyle Larson trying to break away from the field. We have Fabio Quartararo is trying to put distance between himself and everyone else. He has 3 wins, been really consistent, one of the best riders in the field at the moment. Everyone else, except for one, is lacking consistency in wins. Jack Miller is the only one with 2 wins. Johan Zarco is 14 points behind Quartararo, but has no wins, but 4 podiums and 6 top 10 finishes in 7 races. He has the pole, but he crashed shortly afterwards, ending qualifying in a red flag session. Is Zarco capable of putting together a championship, a season-long effort for the championship?
I think he is capable of doing it. He has the speed. He has the bike. The big thing is he has to avoid the mistakes. And we saw that mistake after he captured the pole. If that bike has to do significant repairs, he's going to lose the pole. If it doesn't, he'll start up front. But of course, as we saw on social media, people were comparing Zarco to Charles Leclerc in Monaco with what happened there. You get the pole, you go in the barrier, in Zarco's case, the gravel, and then that air wall is going to be a big change. Zarco's, the consistency he's showing, he can get the job done, but he has to avoid mistakes. Of course, last year, a lot of people pointed fingers at him for that very frightening crash at Austria with Franco Morbidelli. His best finishes overall were 2017 and 2018 with Tech 3. I think he has a lot to prove. He has a lot of potential. He just has to race without mistakes. That's the big thing for Zarco.
Yeah, Zarco definitely doesn't need to make mistakes, and consistency is what got Mir the championship last year with one win. And also want to point out, just like Formula One and with MotoGP this weekend, I like to see them install the IndyCar rule. If you bring out the red flag, your lap time is deleted. I think that would be fair to all the other competitors, so you don't keep the pull like that, as we saw all the talking in Monaco about Charles Leclerc. A lot of people didn't think it was fair that he crashed to bring out the red flag, one pole position, and he was able to keep it. But unfortunately, Ferrari didn't do their homework that weekend, and Leclerc didn't even get to start his home Grand Prix. He's cursed there. And Miguel Oliveira won the race last weekend. The KTM has some updates and looks really fast. What are your thoughts on Miguel Oliveira's performance so far this weekend?
Overall, I'm pretty impressed with it. It's similar to what we saw last race weekend when he got that win. He looks fast. He needs to have that great start, and he is very capable of getting that great start like he did last race weekend for MotoGP and putting it up towards the front and on path to victory. He could easily mount a late season charge. That'd be really exciting for the KTM program as well. And for Miguel Oliveira, of course, from Portugal as well. If he could somehow start contending for the championship, considering Portugal's home of him and Antonio Felix Acosta, I think that will really just make the motorsport community really excited to see two countrymen contending for championships.
This is the 8th round of the season. We have 12 more remaining, so we're not halfway yet. And surprisingly, the 14-point lead Fabio Quartararo has over Johann Zarco is the second largest out of any series currently in the grid ranking. And the only series that's not racing this weekend in the grid ranking is World Rally Championship, but they'll be back in action next weekend. And only 11 points separate Sebastien Ogier and Elfyn Evans. And Rally Kenya is the halfway point of the season. Are you surprised that 6 out of 7 series in the grid ranking have such tight competition for the championship?
I am surprised. In the past, we've seen it where Lewis Hamilton might be able to pull away MotoGP, Marc Marquez, especially the first 2 years of the grid ranking. He just dominated MotoGP, no contest there. And World Rally Championship, since it joined, that first year on Tonic, he was able to control the championship in World Rally Championship 2 years ago. But since then, it's been coming pretty close. And last year, it was changed on the last race of the year in Italy. So it is surprising to see that all the series, 6 of them, still have very close championships. Of course, Shane van Gisbergen just dominating everything in supercars right now.
It's definitely really exciting to see all of the series in the grid ranking having such close championship battles. And my question is, are we going to see this throughout the remainder of the 2021 motorsport season? Are we going to see all these series go down to the wire, or at some point are we going to see these championships break out and we're going to have one person leading the way coming on the home stretch, and you just bringing up Shane van Gisbergen and supercars? Last night it looked like Shane van Gisbergen was going to be in prime position to win that race, but a little issue on pit road doomed his opportunity to win in Darwin.
It definitely doomed his opportunity to win in Darwin. That was a big moment in the race, but this was a very chaotic race. Of course, as we mentioned, this is the one series out of the 7 in the grid ranking where the points leader has more than 14 points. Shane van Gisbergen came in with a 190-point lead over the competition, leading the grid ranking. But that race won. Besides Shane van Gisbergen have bad luck, we saw Anton De Pasquale on the pole. Race 1, lap 1, first corner. Shane van Gisbergen gets in the inside. Scott Pye spins this Pasquale around 6 cars with significant damage, and this really left Shane van Gisbergen the opportunity to extend the lead, but that left rear tire changer was just struggling. The lug nut would not come off for the longest time. Shades of what we saw with Bottas, but this stop was completed. It took around 30 seconds, way too long. He lost a lot of spots from the lead. Race was ruined, and Chas Monster inherited the lead and takes the win, and especially considering he just renewed with his team again. Very exciting moment for him. Now, we've seen Shane. He won the first 6 races of the year in the Supercar Series. We've now gone 6 races without Shane getting a win. Are you shocked by the length of this winless streak?
Yes, I am actually, because at the beginning of the season, I thought it was just going to be a Shane van Gisbergen world, and we'd just be people living in it, watching him dominate the Supercar series after the departure of Scott McLaughlin to the NTT IndyCar series. I mean, it's not game over at all for Shane van Gisbergen. He's still at the top, right? Still getting those finishes to make sure he's not losing as many points as he could be losing right now, but it really seems like Shane peaked really early in the season, and since that first streak of winning races ended, he hasn't been able to find victory lane. I do think we'll see Van Gisbergen winning races throughout the remainder of the season, but it just shows that the other teams have caught up to him, and it's going to be a competitive championship this year in supercars. So I definitely think that Shane's form is a little bit off right now. Had a few mistakes. I think they'll gather it together, and Gisbergen will certainly return to victory lane probably this weekend, since we have two more races left today.
Yeah, this weekend, very likely. I mean, he was controlling that race until the pit stop, but definitely the competition has captured up to Triple Eight racing at Shane van Gisbergen. And of course, Shane van Gisbergen was the grid ranking leader coming into the weekend. And we say was because right now he is projected to lose that grid ranking lead. He came in with the lead at 21.73. Right now he's projected at 19.92. That's a full 1.08 behind Ogier from World Rally Championship, who would inherit the lead. Of course, we still have two more races in the Australian Repco Supercar Series. But despite that poor finish of 13th, which is weird to say for somebody that's won so often, 13th is a poor finish, he still extended his points lead by 3 points. So he's now 193 ahead of Jamie Whincup, 195 ahead of Chaz Monster in the Supercar point standings. Do you believe Shane is racing the big picture and getting wins when possible, but at least scoring the points and finishing the races, not pushing the envelope?
Oh, absolutely. I certainly think Shane Van Gisbergen understands the name of the game, and he's looking at the big picture here. Yes, it would be great for Shane Van Gisbergen if he's able to go out there and win almost every single weekend. But looking at the big picture, you don't need to go out there and win all the time. And last night we saw Shane Van Gisbergen be in good position for the race victory, and then it all went away when he had that blunder mishap on pit road. But he was still able to salvage a good enough finish to have a solid points day despite not getting the win. And I think that's really important, that if you're not winning, you're still getting those consistent finishes. And that's something that Scott Dixon's been really good at in the IndyCar series. While Scott Dixon might not be dominating the race, he's still in the championship picture because he always knows how to points race. Go out there, get those finishes, and make sure he's in contention when we enter the final round of the season. I think we're seeing the same thing with Shane Van Gisbergen, and not as dominant as he was to start off the year, but he's still maintaining that consistency. Make sure he's not losing his points lead or in threat of others passing him.
Yeah, I fully agree. I see him. He's running smart races week in and week out. I anticipate him to get wins. He may not be the dominant force that we saw in the beginning of the year where he right away 6 in a row, but he's going to be earning wins. And as long as he's consistent, he knows he has control of that championship. Race 2 and 3 of the Triple Crown early in the East Coast, but late tonight in the West Coast. And one race that's going to be tonight, but not as late, and in fact, it's on prime time, is SRX at Knoxville.
And this is the second race of the SRX season in the 6-week summer series known as the Superstars Racing Experience, the series co-owned by legendary racer Tony Stewart and legendary crew chief Ray Evernham. And we do have a bit of a format change this weekend. The feature race is going to take the average finishing order of the first two heats. As we saw last week, there was a random draw for Heat 1 to set the starting lineup, and then for Heat 2 there was an invert, and your Heat 2 result set the starting lineup. But after a lot of fans complained they did not like that format, they decided to listen to the fans and change it, where the average finish of the heats will set the starting grid for tonight's race. Plus, we have shorter heat races. Last week it was 15 minutes. People felt like that was a tad bit long, so they've adjusted. Now heat races are going to last for 12 minutes. And we also have a shorter main event. Originally it was supposed to be 100 laps, and they decided to cut it in half to 50. And a lot of people who know Knoxville Raceway well said that 50 laps is a perfect length at the dirt track. And and Scott Bloomquist is making his SRX debut at Knoxville. Scott Bloomquist is a dirt track ringer, has won a lot of races in the dirt late model ranks, and he's trying to do what Doug Coby did last weekend at Stafford Motor Speedway and have a local track champion go out there and win. Do you think Bloomquist will make it 2 in a row for the local track star?
I do see potentially 2 in a row. When it comes to track time there at Knoxville, he has the dirt experience, the track time experience, the upper hand on everybody else. Unless some driver has been practicing on dirt and we don't know about it, he's easily going to be one of the big favorites entering tonight's race.
And I'm sure Scott Bloomquist hopes his SRX debut goes a lot better than his NASCAR Camping World Truck Series debut did at Eldora several years ago for Kyle Busch Motorsports. I remember a lot of people thought Scott Bloomquist was going to be a favorite to win that race. He looked really good in the practice sessions back then. Everyone's like, he's in the best equipment. Scott Bloomquist definitely has to be a contender to win for Kyle Busch Motorsports at Eldora. Then we got to the race itself, and Scott Bloomquist was nowhere to be seen at all. It was like he completely disappeared. He was not competitive at all and really struggled, which was a real shocker. And I'm wondering, so with the unequal equipment here, are we gonna see Scott Bloomquist be the favorite like Doug Coby was? Because Scott Bloomquist knows Knoxville well, Doug Coby knew Stafford well, and in equal equipment. It's going to be interesting to see how Bloomquist does. And also, another driver making their SRX debut is Hailie Deegan, who raced last night at Nashville Superspeedway in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. Hailie finished 21st, and Ryan Preece won the Truck Series race last night, and it was the first Truck Series start of his career. And Hailie Deegan becomes the first female racer to make a start in SRX. And considering this is on network television, IROC never had any female drivers, and they are in equal equipment. Do you think Hailie Deegan will bring new fans to SRX tonight on the same day the NASCAR Xfinity Series is racing in Nashville?
Yes, I think this is a great opportunity for SRX. You're going to have the race in Nashville. Fans are going to want to see more racing. They're going to tune in to this race. They're going to see Hailie Deegan there. For fans that, of course, are new, that probably joined in from SRX last weekend, going to tune in this weekend. Now they're going to be introduced to Hailie Deegan. No matter how Hailie Deegan does, wins, doesn't win, people are going to be exposed to who she is, her racing style, and the fact that she's currently in NASCAR. She's not a former driver. She's not a past champion. She is one of the drivers that is racing week in and week out in a NASCAR National Series. Big win for SRX, having her there, bringing the fans over to SRX. And, of course, for NASCAR, SRX fans, especially the new ones that tuned in last weekend, tuning in again to potentially wander over to NASCAR and the Truck Series where she is currently.
And SRX is scheduled to start at 8 p.m. Eastern time tonight, and Xfinity should be well done by the Xfinity race should be over by then. And be sure to check out your local CBS station. Now it's time for everyone's favorite game: Pick a Winner.
And we encourage everyone to join Pick a Winner, comment in the chat room, or use the hashtag Pick a Winner on Twitter, and we'll be sure to include your picks in the leaderboard. Currently, right now, I got the lead just by one. And for anybody that has 0 points, meaning you have not gotten any selected guesses correct, or you haven't participated, your first guess that you get correct, double the points. So you will be guaranteed to be in the top 10 if you participate and you have 0 points and your first pick gets that win. And we're going to start with Formula E, the Mexico E-Prix Saturday and Sunday's race. Kobe, who do you have winning?
Oh boy, race one. I think it's finally going to get his first one of the season. I'm going with Robin Franz, and the second race, Mitch Evans.
I'm going to go with Antonio Felix da Costa for race one and Nick DeFries for race two. And then, of course, Supercar Series, Darwin race. I believe both of us had picked Shane van Gisbergen for race one. That didn't happen, but we still got race 2 and 3. Who do you see winning race 2 and 3?
Well, starting with race 2, I think he's going to get redemption from last night. I think it's going to be Shane van Gisbergen winning. And then race 3, well, I'm going to spice it up a bit, make it a little fun. How about Antoine De Pasquale?
You took my pick, De Pasquale, for race 2. And I think when it comes to race 3, at that point, Shane van Gisbergen has to come in, get the win, or else a lot of people are going to be questioning about, is he at championship form? Now, Formula One, the French Grand Prix, there are Paul Ricard. Qualifying has already been done. Who do you see taking that win?
I think it's going to be Max Verstappen, and it's going to be redemption from what happened during the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Baku.
Max Verstappen looks really good. The two Mercedes, they're up there. And this time we have Red Bull with their second vehicle, Sergio Perez in fourth. I'm going to go Lewis Hamilton getting the win. I think especially if we see that rain, that might help the Mercedes a little bit more. That start is going to be really critical. And, of course, the start is very critical in MotoGP. We saw Oliveira gone from mid-pack towards the front last race weekend. Who do you see winning the MotoGP race?
I think it's going to be the guy who's been dominating the MotoGP season. And another win for Fabio Quartararo.
Quartararo, I mean, he was easily going to set another lap and try to get his sixth consecutive pole. But, of course, the red flag came out. When it comes to that race, I'm going to go with Jack Miller. Jack Miller, he was putting together a fast lap when the red flag came out. I think he's going to start putting together some good finishes. He was looking good throughout qualifying. IndyCar Rev Group Grand Prix at Road America. Who do you see winning this race?
I think my pick might shock some people, and it seems like this driver is really feeling this track. We're gonna see a first time winner, and it's gonna be ex-Haas Formula One driver Roman Grosjean.
Fans would go crazy if Roman Grosjean could get the win. Hugely popular win. I'm gonna go with the driver with the momentum. He led late last year until the tires fell out, and then got passed by Felix Rosenqvist. Of course, Rosenqvist is now his teammate. When it comes to this, I'm going with Pato O'Ward. He's going to make it 2 in a row for him. McLaren, and now NASCAR Cup Series, Ally 400. Do you see Kyle Larson getting 3 in a row?
Actually, Joe, no, I don't. I'm actually going to go with the other Kyle who made some headlines at Nashville Superspeedway in the past when he took a guitar and broke it apart in Victory Lane. I think Kyle Busch is going to win the Ally 400 at Nashville Superspeedway.
I'm going to go with Kyle Larson. I see him getting that 3rd win in a row. This will be 4th in a row, considering if you count the All-Star non-points event. Now, SRX Superstar Racing Experience. Who do you see winning tonight's race at Knoxville on the dirt?
Well, I'm going to go with another surprise winner. I think it's going to be Marco Andretti.
Marco Andretti will be a hugely popular win. When it comes to me, I think I'm going to go with one of the regular SRX drivers this time. And this time, I'm going to go with Tony Stewart. He has that dirt experience. I think Bloomquist is going to be his biggest competition, but I see Stewart pulling this off and getting the win. And we definitely want to thank everyone for watching Grid Live Pre-Race. Be sure to subscribe to our network right here on YouTube, not miss any of our programs. And in the link below, if you're watching, you get a 10% discount on Publis. Everything from dog leashes, clothing, and accessories, and a portion of your sales goes to helping homeless, sick, and rescued dogs. And of course, this is a cause we believe in as well, since our office dog, Kiska, is a rescue dog from Alaska. And of course, we're going to be on the air Sunday tomorrow, Grid Life Wrap Up. And we want to thank our Patreon supporters for keeping us on the air. We encourage everyone to invest in the Grid Network. Our annual report is going to be released soon. So you sign up now, you get the 2020 annual report and the 2021 annual report. And of course, be sure when you subscribe to the Grid Network, check out all the programs that we have, including Life on the Grid. We got great interviews, and of course, a very special 1 year of Life on the Grid episode coming up in the near future. With Kobe Lambert at the podium finish, I'm Joe San Diego. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day and enjoy the races. Joe San Diego here. Want to invite you to go check out Publis. Publis is a dog clothing and accessory company based in Austria. 10% of each of your purchases goes to helping dogs in need, whether it's homeless, sick, or ill dogs. This is one of the reasons why we support it. Kiska here is a rescue dog from rural Alaska and our Grid office dog. We care about our furry buddies, and we know you do as well. Definitely check out pawbliss.com. There's a link on the video description, and by clicking on that link, you get a 10% discount on your purchase as well.